Welcome to this Aderyn screencast. So this is part 2 of the DERF screencasts. If you haven't watched part 1, I'd encourage you to go back and do that. In part 1 we looked at the overall DERF process, how to request data, how the quotation system works within Aderyn, and also how the results of your data inquiry, your DERF, are finally delivered. In this video we'll look just at the results, the various options you have to view the data and indeed download the data as well. So once the DERF process is complete, you'll receive an email which was covered in the last video with a link in it. You can click on that link, and when you do so you'll come to a page like this, the results of your DERF, your data inquiry. And on this page there's a number of tabs, so we'll go through these tabs one by one. Just very briefly, you've got the summary tab, the species tab, designated sites, habitats, EMapper, and finally export. So let's go through them one by one. So first of all, the summary tab. As the name implies, this is a summary of your inquiry. So you've got an overview of the results here, number of species records returned, priority species, species of conservation concern, locally important species, sites, and habitat. You've also got some information about the location, whether it's a point or a grid reference, the area being searched. If additional individuals were named as having access to the data, they'll be listed here. On the second column you've got financial information, so you've got the billing details, the price of the inquiry, and also here you have some very important dates. So the date the inquiry was created, when it was delivered, and finally when the use expires, which is approximately a year after the delivery date. Finally, at the bottom of the page, and this map appears in fact on all the tabs, but you have a map here which allows you to map various things. So you can map the species, the sites, and indeed the habitat. So we'll come on to that in just a moment. But by default it just shows the search area, the center of the search area, and also the buffer that's been searched. So let's move on to our second tab now. So the species tab. As the name implies, this is the actual individual species records. So you've got some sort of sub-tabs here for priority species, species of conservation concern, or locally important species. If this data is being grouped by taxonomic group, these tabs will reflect those groups instead. If you click on one of these records, then it will display all the information about the record. It will show you the actual polygon, which represents the grid reference, and any information we hold about the record, who the recorder was, any location name, the date of the sighting, and things like that. So you can do that for any of these species records. And of course you can move across to the other tab and do the same there for locally important species or indeed priority species. Now, while we're dealing with species, if we scroll down to the bottom here, we mentioned just now that you can map the species records. So you can just simply click on one of these little toggles here, and the system will go away, retrieve those records, and display them on the map. Now you'll notice on the map is interactive, so we can zoom in here. So if I zoom in a bit more, you'll notice that some of the icons are square. So these indicate low resolution or 1 kilometer resolution records, or maybe even less than that, 2 kilometer possibly. In this case it's a 1 kilometer record, and the 4 there indicates the number of species that share that grid reference. So if you hover over an icon, you'll see the species named. The circular icons are higher resolution, and again the number indicates the number of different species at a given point. So if you just hover over them, you'll see all of those records. Okay, let's turn that off for a moment, because this map is shared across all the tabs, so anything you turn on one tab is visible on the others. So let's move on to the next tab now, which is designated sites. So these are at the top there you'll see a list of the designated sites that have been found within the search area. So for instance we've got a triple SI here, so if I turn this toggle on, you will see that triple SI there displayed on the map. Very simple. So you could of course overlay the species records at the same time if you wanted to, or you can just view the sites one by one, whatever you wish. So if I hit reset here, that'll turn those back off. Next we have habitats. So the habitats marked in red here are priority habitats, but again you've got a series of toggles that you can use to turn or display those habitats on the map. So if I switch on standing water and we scroll down to the map, we'll see there the standing water within the search area. Again, I can press reset to set those back, to turn them all off again. Next we have EMapper. Now this is a system developed by COFNOD, which is a system for, again, viewing the data. So if you click on the View an EMapper button, It will take you across to EMapper. If you haven't already done so and you want to find out more about EMapper, take the tour. It'll walk you through the various features of EMapper. I'm not going to deal with it much now, but you can click on Go to Map. You can see all the records. You've got lots of options here on the right-hand side for displaying various subsets of data, and you've also got options here to print and to download the data. Finally, you've got the Export button, or the Export tab there. We'll go through these options here in reverse order. So the final option there is to download a CSV file of the species list. So this is, rather than individual records of each sighting, this is simply a list of all the different species found within the search area. So that will download as a CSV, a comma-separated value file, which you can open in a spreadsheet program such as Microsoft Excel. The next option up, this is again a CSV download, but this time this is all of the species records. So all the species records that we hold or been returned by the search, and also all the information that we have along with each of those records, such as recorder, the date of the sighting, and all those kinds of things. Moving up again, the next three options are to download shape files. So these are files which can be opened in a GIS software, so things like ArcMap, MapInfo, or QGIS. All of those bits of software can open these shape files. So the first one, or the lowest one there, the bottom one, is to download a shape file of the search area. Then you have a shape file of the species, and you have a choice here between polygon and point. So all the species records are held as polygons, representing the grid reference. So if you want to see them as polygons, you can download this one. And if you want to see them as centered points, then you can download that one there. You then have the View in EMapper link. We've touched on that already. It's the same link there. And then finally, at the top here, you have printable report or PDF report. So rather than the system generating a PDF itself, what it simply does, if we click on this link here, it gives us a few options first of all, so we can decide whether we want the report type to be public or confidential. So if it's public, then things like the grid references and the locations are removed. Recorder name is also removed. You can also decide whether to include the maps of sites and habitats. So if we make those selections and we click on Go, what it will do is generate a printable HTML page. So we'll give it a few seconds. So now we have a printable page. So if you were to right click here, you could print this page, and it should print reasonably cleanly in landscape mode, ideally on a color printer. You'll get a nicely printed report. But the other thing you can do, I'm in Safari here, but you can click on File there and export as a PDF. And then you can very simply save that report as a multi-page PDF. If we scroll down, we'll see all the records there, but right down the bottom, if I grab the slider there, go down to the bottom, because I selected the maps there of sites and habitats, you will see those maps at the bottom with the various polygons switched on. So all those things will be displayed in the report, whether you choose to make it an electronic PDF or to print it out on paper. So that really concludes this Aderyn screencast. If you have any feedback, we always welcome that, so please get in touch, inquiry@biz.org.uk. Otherwise, thanks for watching.